I like to say that ETFs are the most democratized investment vehicle in the world, so much that you can buy one share. My grandma, who might be interested in putting a little money towards investing in cannabis, she could buy a minimum of one share, all the way up to, say, a European pension fund that may have interest in making an allocation to the cannabis industry. They could buy tens of thousands of shares if they so chose, and everyone is treated equitably.
From MJBulls Media, it's the Raising Cannabis Capital Show. Today in Raising Cannabis Capital, we are continuing this month's Cannabis Investor Spotlight series with Matt Markiewicz, Managing Director of the Cannabis ETF THCX. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
It's exciting. This is something new for cannabis, I think. This is the first cannabis ETF that I know of that is exclusively cannabis. And you launched this in the summer, and it trades right now on the New York Stock Exchange under symbol THCX. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. For listeners who are not familiar with an ETF, can you explain what it is?
Sure. ETF stands for Exchange Traded Fund. And in short, it's an investment vehicle that the listeners may kind of know as a mutual fund, but it actually trades on a stock exchange, as you alluded to, and there is intraday liquidity, meaning you can buy it in the morning and sell it in the afternoon if you wanted to. And there are some other attributes, such as some enhanced tax efficiency, and there's transparency. So every day you know exactly what is in that portfolio, and that's available on our website. This is very similar to all 2,000 plus ETFs in the United States. So even though there's one T in ETF, I like to think of it as three T's, standing for transparency, tradability, and tax efficiency within the ETF.
Okay. There's 37 different cannabis companies in the fund. It seems like a lot. Is that pretty normal?
I'd say, as you mentioned, there are a few cannabis ETFs. However, the 37 companies in the portfolio that have exposure to the legal cannabis industry not only kind of cover seed to sale, but there are companies involved in other aspects of the cannabis industry. There are over 100 publicly traded cannabis stocks out there. However, not all of them meet eligibility for our portfolio.
Oh, okay. I saw in some of the companies are names that we would recognize, but also have a division in cannabis, like Scott's. What was the other?
Scott's Miracle Grow, one of the bigger holdings. We also have a company in the portfolio called Perkin-Elmer. Perkin-Elmer provide lab equipment and testing analysis for companies. Obviously, you go to your dispensary and you see all those nice little stats on your little plastic eighth canister of your Girl Scout cookies. That has to come from a lab. Yeah. So Perkin-Elmer is a publicly traded company that's been doing testing and analysis for many years, and they're just branching into cannabis fairly recently. So it's probably a small portion of the business, but again, it's definitely a growing avenue of revenue for them, given the fact that the cannabis industry is growing so rapidly in the U.S.
It's growing rapidly in the U.S., but most of the public companies are still in Canada. Is that because of the laws in the United States still?
Yeah, 19 of the 37 stocks are what's called Canadian licensed producers. So the companies that have licenses to grow and distribute marijuana in Canada. Canada, as you know, is the second country in the world to have legalized adult use marijuana. And they were the first to kind of really access the public markets. They were early because of that movement towards legalization there. Quite honestly, per the regulatory guidelines here in the U.S., we are not allowed to own any stocks that touch the marijuana plant within the United States, being still a Schedule I substance here. So the U.S. government still views companies operating illegally for all intents and purposes. So we're not allowed to own stocks of those companies within the fund, and that goes for our peer group as well.
I'm on your website right now, and there's if somebody's curious about investing in cannabis and wants more information about it, you have a great brochure in here called Cannabis Essentials. I think that would be really helpful for people thinking about making investments. And the best part about what you're doing is that you're opening this up to everybody. You don't need to be accredited. I mean, you can probably say it better than I, but it's just buying stocks. It's pretty easy, right?
I like to say that ETFs are the most democratized investment vehicle in the world, so much that you can buy one share. My grandma, who might be interested in putting a little money towards investing in cannabis, she can buy a minimum of one share, all the way up to, say, a European pension fund that may have interest in making an allocation to the cannabis industry. They could buy tens of thousands of shares if they so chose, and everyone is treated equitably. There's no sort of redemption period or holding period. You could buy in the morning and you can sell in the afternoon. So you have that intraday liquidity. And everyone is treated on the same playing field in terms of the fee they pay, how the fund is taxed. And again, there's that transparency. So every single holder of the ETF knows exactly what's in the fund on a daily basis.
I'm flicking around the website while we're talking, but I noticed that a lot of your investments are in the pharmaceutical and biotech side of the cannabis industry. Is that because there are more of those companies that are public right now?
Yeah, correct. As the cannabis ecosystem develops globally, we expect to see more companies, ancillary companies involved. But right now, the companies that have come to access the public markets and are listed on major exchanges such as the NYSE, NASDAQ, or the Toronto Stock Exchange happen to be in the pharmaceutical and biotech industries. A lot of these companies sort of bridge the industry in terms of they're almost agricultural, biotech, and retail at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. Think about a company like Canopy Growth.
Yeah.
They have a crop. They have to extract on a scientific basis certain elements from the plant, and they also have storefronts up in Canada where they distribute the product to the buyers. So it's a really unique ecosystem in that you do have companies that are vertically integrated, but again, as I mentioned earlier, you do have companies that are specific in terms of services that they provide to the cannabis industry.
And I also saw, I think, Canopy River on there. That's their investment arm.
Yep, Canopy Rivers has a pretty sizable portfolio. Cannabis companies, again, not only that are growers and distributors, but they have various companies in the cannabis ecosystem, technology companies, for instance, that aren't big enough to list on an exchange. They're private for now. Hopefully, I'm sure Canopy Rivers thinks that they have the ability to go public at some point. But for now, it's almost like a venture fund of cannabis.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you've touched the entire cannabis ecosystem with this fund. We've been speaking with Matt Markiewicz, the managing director of the Cannabis ETF THCX. And we'll have all of his contact information, including the stock symbol THCX on the MJBulls website. If somebody's interested in purchasing some stock, you don't have to make a big commitment here. His grandmother can go buy one share, buy it in the morning and sell it in the afternoon. Matt, this has been great. I appreciate your education that you gave everyone, and I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Look forward to hopefully being on again.
For sure. We'll definitely make that happen.